In the courtyard of a small countryside hospital, a gray and white tabby cat watched everything with alert eyes. Her name was Mel, and no one knew exactly how she got there, but since she arrived, she never left. Mel wandered between the benches in the reception area, brushed against visitors' feet, and lay down near the emergency entrance. She didn't belong to anyone, yet it felt like she was part of the hospital staff. The employees fed her and left a makeshift bed near the cafeteria. Even so, Mel preferred the hallways where she felt more useful. She seemed to know where her presence was most needed. It was common to see her beside recovering patients or sitting on the laps of elderly people waiting for care. Her calm presence brought comfort, and many swore the pain eased when Mel was around. The head nurse said Mel had a gift. She approached only those who needed it most. It didn't matter if it was a child, an adult, or someone in their final moments. She knew who needed consoling. Once, a boy with leukemia smiled for the first time in days when Mel lay beside him. The nurse who witnessed it was moved to tears. That cat did what no medicine could. Doctors began noticing that in rooms where Mel spent more time, patients showed emotional improvement. It wasn't in any report, but everyone felt the difference. Mel was part of the healing process. Over time, she became a symbol of the hospital. On the cafeteria wall, a photo of her was placed with the caption, "Mel, our silent guardian." But her story was just beginning. Mel was soon given free access to every department. Even the ICU allowed her in during special moments. It was as if everyone understood her role there went beyond explanation. One night, a critically ill patient arrived unconscious. The doctors struggled to stabilize him. Mel, who had been sleeping in the garden, suddenly stood up and walked into the hospital as if she sensed something important was happening. She walked straight to room 12 where the patient had been taken and sat at the door. She didn't go in, just stayed there quietly, as if standing guard. She did the same for 3 nights in a row. On the 4th morning, the patient woke up. He was an elderly man, alone with no visitors or close family. When he saw Mel in the hallway, he smiled faintly and said, "I thought it was a dream. You were there." The nurses were astonished. The previously unresponsive patient began talking, eating, and engaging. He asked to see the cat, and Mel visited him daily, lying at his feet as if healing with him. There was an inexplicable connection between them. He called her his furry angel. He said that even without words, she brought him hope. For those surrounded by illness, that meant more than any drug. Mel was also a constant presence in the pediatric ward. The children adored her. She played with paper balls, let them brush her fur, and lay beside them during tough moments like exams or painful treatments. The parents were moved. Many said their children had become braver since the cat arrived. Mel didn't heal with medicine, but with presence, affection, and something only a pure heart can offer. Time passed and Mel grew older. Her steps slowed and she no longer jumped as easily. Still, she remained committed to her mission, visiting patients and offering her comforting silence. Staff members began taking turns to care for her better. Special food, a heated bed in the winter, toys. She had become part of the hospital family. Everyone deeply loved her. One rainy morning, Mel didn't appear in the cafeteria. Worried, the staff searched everywhere. They found her lying in the room of a terminally ill woman, curled up beside the patient who had passed away during the night. Mel remained there even after the body was taken. It was as if she was mourning. That scene moved the entire team. Doctors and nurses wept upon realizing the depth of her bond with the patients. Mel's health began to decline. She was taken to the vet who diagnosed kidney and heart problems. The hospital doctors decided to take turns caring for her, as if she were a special patient. They set up a little room just for her with windows facing the garden. There, Mel received visits, cuddles, and slept under the sunlight. Even weak, she still purred when hearing the voices of those she loved. One day, a former patient returned to the hospital just to say thank you. He brought flowers and asked for the cat who helped me live. When he learned about Mel's condition, he cried and stayed by her side for hours. Everyone felt her time was coming to an end. Yet no one spoke of sadness. Instead, they talked about gratitude. Mel had done more for that hospital than words or actions could express. On a golden afternoon, Mel closed her eyes for the last time in her little bed, surrounded by love. Nurses, doctors, and even patients fell silent. The hospital seemed to pause to say goodbye to its guardian. She was buried in the hospital's garden under a large tree. A small plaque was placed there. Mel, the cat who cared with her heart. Flowers were left by staff and patients every day. The hospital was never the same again, but Mel's presence was still felt. Some said they heard her meow at night. Others swore they saw her in the hallways during moments of distress. She had become eternal. The pediatric wing was renamed Mel's Corner. There, children played, drew, and listened to stories about the cat who healed with her gaze. Parents told their kids how an animal could change so many lives. Volunteers began visiting the hospital with trained emotional support animals. Inspired by Mel, new care initiatives were created. Her legacy became action, spreading love and hope. Mel's story spread, featured in news articles, drawings, and even a small statue in the garden. But to those who knew her, nothing compared to the warmth of her soft purr and sweet gaze. And so the cat who arrived unannounced and without an owner left an immeasurable legacy. She showed that even in silence we can be a presence, that true love needs no words. Because when we love with our whole hearts, it doesn't matter whether we walk on 2 legs or 4 paws. We can touch lives in ways none of us could ever imagine.